Hello again from Orange County. Happy Saturday morning. We are done with 49ers training camp. Feels great, but you could still see that I'm in a hotel. That means that the road trip is not done yet. 49ers and Chargers, week 2 of the preseason tomorrow at SoFi Stadium. So still traveling, living out of the suitcase. Next week, we'll be back in the Bay Area. I'm sure everybody's excited for 49ers Raiders. But first, we're going to talk about how Jauan Jennings is on track to make the 49ers roster. So many people seem excited about this second-year wide receiver out of Tennessee. And by the way, if you talk to people from Tennessee, where Jauan Jennings made some big catches over the years, they absolutely love this guy. I mean, almost to an irrational level. You mentioned Jauan Jennings' name to a Volunteers fan, and their eyes just light up. And they're like, oh my God, you guys got Jauan Jennings on your team? And they start, just listing off all the ways that he's going to help the 49ers win. Now, we didn't get to see it during Jennings' rookie season in 2020 because he was hurt early on, and he never made that 53-man roster. But here in 2021, I really do think that Jauan Jennings is lined up to make that 49ers 53-man roster. Let's take a look at the depth chart on the spreadsheet right here. This is the receiver room. These are the 6 I currently have projected to make it. Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, obviously awaiting results of the MRI on his glute after Friday's practice. Mohamed Sanu, who I think punched his ticket early on in training camp. I remember Jimmy Garoppolo dropped the F-bomb praising Mohamed Sanu in that early press conference. Trent Sherfield, he's got guaranteed money. He's impressed a whole heck of a lot. 49ers love his special teams ability. I do still have Richie James, but I have him highlighted in red because I think this guy, highlighted in green, Simba Webster, is knocking on the door of that spot. Richie James has dropped a lot of passes during training camp in the preseason. So look out for Simba Webster in weeks 2 and 3 of the preseason. And then finally, out of the group of 6, Jauan Jennings. Now you'll also notice if I scroll over one more time, I have Jalen Hurd on the outside looking in. That's because as things stand right now, Jalen Hurd is on the rehab field more often than he's on the practice field. The 49ers might be able to work some roster maneuvers to carry Jalen Hurd on the team this year, not on the 53-man roster if he's still not 100% by the regular season. We can talk about those later. But as of right now, it just doesn't feel good for the Jalen Hurd situation because he needs to be out of practice. He needs to be proving that he can contribute to this team. It's hard to be too hard on the guy because he is coming off an ACL tear exactly a year ago. Sometimes these things take a year plus to heal. But the problem is that the 49ers and their perception of him is that they've dealt now with 2 seasons of injuries, the back injury the year before, and then the ACL tear last year. So for that reason, we can't just keep on waxing poetic about the idea of Jalen Hurd. We actually have to talk about players who can put what Jalen Hurd can potentially do in practice on the field. And guess who has put it in practice during training camp? The guy that we're talking about, Jauan Jennings. And this is why he's on track to make the 49ers roster. It's important to realize that the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan underwent a personnel shift over the past couple of years. Early on in Shanahan's tenure, you saw it with the draft pick of Trent Taylor in 2017. You saw when Jimmy Garoppolo came over in 2017 and really started working the slot to Trent Taylor, just like New England quarterbacks like to work the slot, the smaller slot receivers. You really saw the small slot become a thing within Shanahan's offense. But obviously, Trent Taylor also wasn't able to stay healthy, and the 49ers offense evolved. And it evolved to the level of being a dominant run-first offense when it was at its best. 49ers were at their best during the January 2020 NFC title game against Green Bay. They ran for 6.8 yards per carry. They absolutely dominated despite not having to throw any passes really in that whole football game. And it became a thing where Shanahan realized that he could zag while other NFL defenses are zigging. And by that, I mean smaller personnel packages across NFL defenses meant smaller linebackers and smaller defensive backs. Everybody was gearing up to fight the passing game because the passing game has overtaken the NFL. Shanahan realized, well, if I can run for 6.8 yards per carry against a very soft Green Bay defense in the NFC Championship game, I could really dominate with a run-first attack that opens the door to what Shanahan has done so well over the years, and he's called the play action so well. So it's run first, play action pass. That is the bare bones staple of the Kyle Shanahan offense with a lot more complicated intricacies stemming from that. Anyway, if you're on that run first train, especially in an outside zone system, and we know that Shanahan loves to run a lot of outside zone with his mobile offensive linemen, why not add more mobile blockers to the fold than just your tackles, just your guards, maybe just your center? Why not also have the tight ends be able to block in space, which is why George Kittle is so athletic? Why not have your wide receivers be able to block in space? So it's extremely important in a Shanahan offense that receivers are able to block. And that is where the big slot position and Jauan Jennings, who's on your screen right now, come into this whole mix. In Atlanta, Kyle Shanahan had Mohamed Sanu. He now has Sanu with the 49ers. He's going to be in that big slot position. Talking a 6'2", 6'3" receiver who's got some muscle, who's got the ability to move guys, especially smaller defensive backs. The 49ers drafted Jalen Hurd in 2019 with the idea that he could be another big slot type receiver. Jalen Hurd is 6'3". Fans like to call him the cyborg because of the potential that probably is there, but we don't know for sure because he's been hurt. But if that potential is there for Jalen Hurd, he's been a power back in the SEC and a wideout in the Big 12. What else can you ask for as far as a mix of talents for the big slot? Well, that's exactly where Jauan Jennings falls in as well. You have a 6'3" receiver in Jauan Jennings who's strong, who could block, but most importantly, has the toughness that Kyle Shanahan wants to be able to do that dirty work. Now, Jauan is not a guy who's going to run a 4.3 40. He's not going to run a 4.4 40, not even a 4.5 40. In fact, this guy ran a 4.7 40 in his pro day at college. 4.7, that's slow. That's not something that's going to get you drafted high as a wide receiver. And for that and for some other reasons that I'll get into, Jauan Jennings fell down to the 7th round of the 2020 draft. But the 49ers were thrilled to have him because they think he is a complete bulldog. He's out there to fight people. And Shanahan wants that moxie. He wants that grittiness at that big slot receiver position. If you look at one of Kyle Shanahan's quotes about Jauan Jennings, I'm going to pull this up because I wrote an article about him when he was at Tennessee, or when they got him from Tennessee right after the draft. It tells you everything that you need to know about what the 49ers think of Jauan Jennings' mentality. So I'm putting this back up on the screen. Here it is. Ultimate competitor. How 49ers wide receiver Jauan Jennings earned respect at Tennessee. Take a look at this. Make it a little bit bigger. He was one of our favorite guys to watch, Shanahan said of Jennings. He's a bulldog. I feel like he could probably play linebacker if he wants. He's willing to fight everybody out there. John Lynch, he'd play safety if he didn't play receiver. I love his attitude. I love his style. I think he's going to help us a lot. Boom, there you go. Jauan Jennings in a nutshell. I mean, and everybody at Tennessee says the same thing about him. He was suspended for the second half of the first half of Tennessee's bowl game as a senior because of a sideline altercation where he lost his temper against Vanderbilt a couple weeks prior. That also might have lowered Jauan Jennings' draft stock, but it's something that he fully explains and says he's fully overcome today. I mean, the guy, because he's a bulldog on the field, had some short-tempered moments at Tennessee, and he understands that if he has short-tempered moments in the NFL, he's going to really hurt his football team and probably not stay on the football team. So it's important that Jauan Jennings, stays away from the penalties. But you're always walking a fine line in the game of football, especially if you're asked to play a physical position or tasked with physical duties. And Kyle Shanahan's offense is not a finesse attack. There needs to be physicality. That's why you see guys getting pissed off all the time on the practice field. River Craycraft, got into a shoving match with Derwin James at the 49ers Chargers practices because Derwin James took exception with how hard River Craycraft was blocking. But that's how the 49ers have to play to implement this run-first system, right? So Jauan Jennings, he's going to have to really walk that tightrope. He's going to piss some guys off, but he just can't stomp on their helmet, or he can't, do some of the stuff that got him in trouble in college. He's going to have to keep it on the straight and narrow as far as extracurricular post-play activity. But if you watch Jauan Jennings' press conference, I mean, the guy is just beaming. He was so happy to be there. In fact, that's probably something that I should find right now for you, just to show Jauan Jennings talking. I mean, you can just tell this is a This is a good-hearted guy that is out there, turns on that bulldog mentality when he's on the field. And the trick will be to make sure that it turns off in time before, right after the whistle blows. And the 49ers are confident that he's in the right headspace to do that. Let's take a look right now at Jauan Jennings' press conference, which, it was his first one talking to the local media. And I really felt that his energy just shone through in a really good way. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen again and go for this one. There's Jauan, and I'm going to turn on the volume. All right, let's take a look at this.
I was just thankful to me. I was just wonderful. I was just thankful to be able to go out there and compete at the combine. That is a dream come true, as well as just being at this podium right now is a dream come true. So just going out there to compete, and then looking back at it, my nephews, they get on me every chance they can. I'm not as fast as them, man. They're probably right, but it just makes me go out there and work hard. I was just wonderful.
All right, there you go. There's Jauan Jennings. Thrilled to be with the 49ers, thrilled to be healthy this year. And he was referring to his 4.740. His nephews say that they're faster than him, which might be true. But, okay, the guy can run routes. He can make contested catches. He's caught the football, both from Trey Lance in the 49ers preseason game against the Chiefs and in some of these practices. He has good hands, and he caught a big Hail Mary for Tennessee. So to beat Georgia. I mean, players were crying after he caught, and the coach was crying after he caught that Hail Mary. It was such an emotional moment. So this guy shows up in big moments. He can make those clutch catches. He can go up and get the football. It's always nice to have a guy like that on your team. And since it all starts with the blocking, since it starts with that bulldog mentality, the 49ers are really happy to have this guy. And I do think that Jauan Jennings will make that 53-man roster. So that's just my prediction, but I feel strongly about this one. I think that you'll see Jauan Jennings, health permitting, and right now he's healthy, show that he's taken great advantage of that redshirt season in 2020, and I think he's going to be a contributor for the 49ers here in 2021. All right, everybody take care. You guys have a good Saturday.